The Club World Cup is fast approaching, and here's a look at the groups for this competition. Lionel Messi and Inter Miami are in Group A, recent UCL winners. PSG in Group B, along with MLS side Seattle Sounders. Nico Cantor's Boca Juniors, they're in Group C, along with Bayern Munich. Do any of you all see a group of death here, Master? Anyone stand out?
Where's the group with Botafogo, PSG? Group B, PSG, Atletico Madrid, Botafogo, Seattle Sounders. I would say that's
Seattle Sounders.
Sounders. Sound a real Texan there.
That
was straight from Triple D right there.
Dallas came out right there. Wow.
I'd say that one seems like the most challenging one, and that's going to be really, really interesting to see PSG, Atletico face up against each other. But that's the one I'm looking at.
Don't sleep on Group C.
Are there any games in Texas? We got to send you down there. Okay, here's a look at some of the things that you need to know ahead of this competition. 32 club teams competing, and they've been split into the 8 groups that you just saw. Runs from June 14th through July 13th, so about a month, and there is $1 billion in total prize money. Oh boy. I'm curious, though, we talked about this a little bit on the show yesterday, Master and Jalil, just about the general interest for this competition and kind of where people are at. What are the crowds going to look like? So, Pablo, what's your take on the Club World Cup, and what have you kind of gotten a sense of in terms of fan excitement and just what we can expect?
I think it's a real tricky one, honestly. I mean, I think there's part of me that thinks that the big name teams in this tournament, obviously, people are always going to come out to see those teams. You can play a meaningless summer friendly, people would fill a stadium to see, any number of these teams. But I'm more worried about some of the lower level teams from smaller market countries, if you will. Even, I worry about these games being played at 2 or 3 in the afternoon in markets like DC, where it's obviously the heat is sweltering. They're playing these games for European television, it seems. I don't know how much excitement there is surrounding those games. I think the group stage could be pretty bleak at times. I also sort of think you see FIFA maybe getting a little nervous about the attendance. You have Infantino basically on a month-long promotional tour at Times Square with the Rizzler.
You weren't tuning in on the speed stream with Infantino on speed? You didn't tune in on Twitch for that one?
No, sorry, yeah.
You missed that one?
Not a big speed guy. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm 45, a dork or whatever, But so I don't know. I mean, I just like, I could see it going one or two ways. But I mean, I don't know what you guys think. I definitely think the group stage could be a little iffy as far as the excitement level goes.
I think the whole point is we just don't know, and we gonna see. And I think the uncertainty brings a certain level of excitement. We've never seen this tournament have any iteration that resembles this in any way, shape, or form. I think you bring up a good point, Pablo, that the group stage games, some of them, especially in like these extreme neutral sites with smaller market clubs, could get real weird when it comes to attendance. Might look a little Nations League in LA like or something. But at the end of the day, the biggest clubs in the world are here in this tournament. And you would like to think as the tournament progresses, it'll get more and more exciting.
But Jalil, I mean, from a player's standpoint, you know better than anybody, having played in Major League Soccer, just how freaking hot it gets in some of these places. You mentioned the midday games, and schedule congestion has just been such a persistent topic right now in the sport. So, I mean, do you see that kind of coming up as a concern for players? You have these added games in. Of course, it's a big, there's a lot at stake for these clubs to compete financially, especially. But, I mean, either way, that's going to be a tricky ask.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Players throughout world football, in MLS, it doesn't matter what league, have been very open and talking about the fact that the addition of the multitude of competitions is getting to a point where rubber is starting to meet the road. We're seeing more injuries than we've ever seen in world football. And how is that really going to continue to play out? Because it seems like, the bigwigs out there don't really seem to care, and it's more and more competitions. For me, when you look at it through the lens of, let's say, an MLS locker room, for example, we have 3 teams competing, and those other teams are not playing in all of the other tournaments as well. So at least that part of it was mitigated from a league and club standpoint from the MLS. But when you look at, European clubs, they've played the entirety of their season. A PSG, for example, has played as many games as you could possibly play in Europe. They're flipping the script and turning it right back around in 2 weeks to play in what FIFA wants to be one of the most, if not the most, coveted tournament until the World Cup. So roster congestion, schedule congestion definitely is going to play a factor, but I would like to think, again, it will heat up and get more and more exciting as we progress in this tournament.
Jude Bellingham has been pushing off shoulder surgery for 18 months now because Real Madrid last season went through their long run, won Champions League. Then he had to play in Euros. Then they had their summer schedule. And then the season started back up again. And he wanted to get surgery this summer, but now he's got to push it back further because of the Club World Cup.
Which, this is the time that you should be able, as a player, to undergo these types of procedures,
surgery, but also just relax,
and
just like unplug, like take a break, like that. These things, and that's where I'm torn. Like there is a part of me that I'm excited for this. I'm excited to see even the obscure clubs, like when you see the Red Diamonds giving a send-off for their club, and I'm excited to see how many of those fans come here and want to embrace their team, and the national pride you see from these different clubs and the representation that football brings globally. I think the sport and hopefully this tournament is able to bring that out. But the other side of this as well is I'm concerned that there could be some injuries that we see from here that not only can impact the club schedule, but also could be some 12-month injuries that could have some guys missing out on the World Cup next year as well. Yeah,
exactly. And, we have, Pablo, at least seen on the MLS side some players come out in protest, at least of the lack of financial share that's affecting teams like the Seattle Sounders, who wore T-shirts ahead of their game on Sunday that called it a cash grab, essentially. So, can you kind of just give us some context and color to the situation, how we got here and why the Seattle Sounders players are protesting this and in this position?
Yeah, I mean, of course, any player could tell you that these sort of tournaments have a built-in bonus structure for players. Clubs, obviously, there's a huge payout in this tournament. I mean, FIFA has made a massive deal about the fact that, as you said, there's $1 billion in prize money at stake here. These MLS teams, they'll make $9.5 million just for showing up, just for qualifying, and MLS players are concerned right now because when they signed their current collective bargaining agreement, the players union and the league obviously have an agreement for pay and working conditions, that sort of stuff. That CBA lays out specific bonuses for specific tournaments that these teams usually take part in. Well, the Club World Cup, as we just talked about, has never existed this iteration of it. It used to be a 6-team sort of meaningless tournament, relatively low stakes. Now in that CBA, there is a max of $1 million that each team can get in bonus money. Obviously, MLS players are not thrilled about this. We're sort of asking the league to come to the table and maybe try and renegotiate some of those terms, and we'll see how that goes. I think obviously with the Seattle guys, I had a conversation with somebody close to the PA yesterday who said that they've had informal approaches with MLS over the past couple of months, to try and sort of renegotiate that bonus structure. Seattle apparently last night just felt like they reached a couple nights ago, felt like they reached their breaking point, sort of had to do something publicly. I mean, a lot of times, let's be real, you have to shame people with money into doing the right thing. So I think that might be what's at play here. There's very much a both sides thing to this too. I mean, if you're MLS, maybe Jalil, you can sort of actually touch on that even more. I mean, the player's perspective of it,
Yeah, for me, it's one where the players have been here many, many times when it comes to MLS and bargaining. I've been involved in bargaining and collective bargaining, and I know exactly what's going on and what it's like. First and foremost, you got to understand the Seattle Sounders are a club that have a long history of their players standing up. Stephen Fry is no stranger to galvanizing the group, nor is Christian Roldan or any of the veterans that have been in that locker room. I give them a lot of credit for making sure that first and foremost, they were on the same page with the 3 other clubs that are participating, LAFC included now, in this charge. This is a moment of solidarity. The players have tried to go about this in a way where it did not need to be public. And we're now in the 11th hour with about 2 weeks away from the tournament, and there's no real understanding for the players in terms of what they are going to get as far as the prize money is concerned. Like you talked about earlier, Pablo, in the CBA, it currently states that the players are able to get in a tournament like this up to $1 million in prize money, but that was in the CBA agreed to way before this iteration of the Club World Cup was even thought of. The league has negotiated in good faith in a similar tournament, aka CONCACAF Champions, and they've been able to come to a resolution which the players and the league felt that it was fair. So you can also look at Leagues Cup bonuses as well, where the players are happy about that. The league is happy about that split as well. So there's no reason from a precedent standpoint that the two sides can't come together and get this.
I mean, it's very quickly. It's also, to me, it's an easy win for MLS. I mean, I don't think the players are asking for a Real Madrid level player bonus for this tournament. Like cut them in a little bit. It's an easy win, in the court of public perception. This is subjective. In my opinion, it's the right thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, these guys, obviously, people pay to see players. They pay to see clubs,
But don't these things usually come down to
it is a ton of money.
If you look at, I think we have the graphic of just how many, how much is to be earned the further you advance in the competition. I mean, for MLS to not try to put together some sort of deal for that, like, that would just further incentivize the teams to have success. I think if they know, we can get a cut of, I mean, look at just like the elevator, like how much this number grows. I mean,
it is obviously Seattle has a tall task at hand to get out of the group. But if any of these 3 teams get out of the group,
I don't know, a few million would incentivize me quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure. It's another $7.5 million. So it's
real quick, I want to ask this question though. There's a deadline coming up, and these kind of bargaining situations, isn't it typically when the deadline is the tournament? Doesn't that have something to do where typically these kind of negotiations become more serious as the deadline approaches?
Yeah, it can come down to the 11th hour, but that's what the players are frustrated about.
Yeah.
And typically time does, play into the court of public law, like you're talking about, to kind of push things over the edge. But at the end of the day, when you look at what the homies are saying, they're saying, hey, look, we're trying to focus and prepare for this tournament, but we can't because we're distracted. We're trying to, they just drop points at home. That's something that they typically don't do in league. And they were asked, okay, well, is this a little bit weird that you guys are protesting on behalf of the Club World Cup, but you drop points at home? And they're like, no, this is exactly our point. We want to be able to focus on all the games in the competition so that we can represent ourselves, our club, and the league the best that we can in the Club World Cup. And right now, for the record, with this unresolved, the split right now is basically a 9-1 split in the league's favor. So what they're looking for is something that just resembles what the other teams are getting in this tournament as far as revenue share is concerned. The split, I should say.
Going to be interesting to continue to follow this story as the Club World Cup is fast approaching.